9 playoff teams from last year lose in week 1, and some good teams are staring at an 0-2 start. The Eagles face an early NFC measuring stick game and the league's most dangerous wide receiver. Sal Pal joins us to talk about the NFC East and Eagles-Vikings. We have Tony Cutillo to talk fantasy. Sean Green chimes in with some lines and some spreads, and we finish it all up with Gary Myers. It's all right now on This Week in Pro Football.
It's time for This Week in Pro Football, a deep dive into the key issues and marquee matchups in the National Football League. For the next 60 minutes, we invite you to sit back or lean in with host Pat Callahan as we preview the week's Eagles matchup, big games, breaking stories, and all news NFL. It's This Week in Pro Football, right now on JAKIB Media Sports.
All right. Hello, everybody. Pat Callahan joining you for This Week in Pro Football, week number 2 in the National Football League. Proud, as always, to be joining the guys at JAKIB Media and JAKIB Sports here to present this high-quality one-hour program to talk about the NFL, all the games, all the personalities, and I'm very excited to have back in a few minutes. I'm going to be joined by my longtime colleague, 30-year veteran of the NFL football wars. That would be the great Sal Paolantonio. Sal's going to join me in a few minutes. We got Gary Myers at the end of the show, another Hall of Fame elector. Gary will join me, and then we're going to, during the show, we'll talk fantasy with Tony Cutillo and some numbers and spreads and props with the great Sean Green of SGPN Sports. All right, let's talk about what went down last week in the NFL. Sandra, you can bring up that week 1 results. We'll talk about what happened in week 1 last week, really, in pro football. It all started with the Rams getting bopped by the Buffalo Bills, and that was not really a big surprise. Buffalo, as I said last week, looks like a dominant NFL team this year. Saints 27, Falcons 26. The Saints dodged the bullet here. Saints dodged a real bullet. You know what happens? It's losing teams lose. They find a way to do it. I've been saying it on this show for years on the radio, and the Falcons managed to do it. They blew a 2-touchdown lead in the last half of the fourth quarter. Cleveland defeats Carolina 26-24. That I'm going to talk about a little bit later on in the show because the Panthers got robbed by a terrible officiating decision. Hey, it's going to happen. It's just the way of it. You got to be prepared for it. But still, they got robbed there, and it led directly to Cleveland kicking the winning field goal. San Francisco loses to Chicago 19-10. A big surprise there. The 49ers were a 7-point favorite. Terrible conditions, but they were terrible for the Bears, too, who happened to be terrible. So San Francisco and Trey Lance not off to a good start. Pittsburgh upsets Cincinnati 23-20. You may remember if you watched last week's show, Sean Green was right on talking about home dogs. But he mentioned also that the Super Bowl loser is 5-21 against the spread in opening games the following year. And lo and behold, Cincinnati goes out of their way to lose to Pittsburgh 23-20. Philadelphia, we're going to talk about them a great deal in this next hour. They annoyed a lot of Philadelphia betting fans, though, by letting the Lions cover 38-35 with a couple of late scores. A tie between Indy and Houston. Indianapolis, come on, Indianapolis. Snap out of it. 20-20 in Houston, a game they definitely should have won. New England, I'm going to talk at this game with their game in week 2. Sal will be talking about that game. He's going to be covering it in the radio booth for ESPN Radio. New England loses to Miami 20-7. I talked to Sal about this. I think New England could be in for a long season right now. Mac Jones with a back injury is supposed to play, but there's not a lot to like about that New England offense. Baltimore defeats the Jets, big deal. The Anonymous Bowl, Washington over Jacksonville. The New York Football Giants, we'll talk to Sal about them too, and to Gary. A great effort by the Giants. I thought that was a wonderful win for them in Tennessee. Kansas City beats Arizona. Stop it with the Cardinals. The Chargers and defeat the Raiders 24-19. I thought it was a preseason game for both teams. Chargers were just a little bit better. Green Bay, week 1, they might as well just mail it in. A very desultory effort. Of course, they don't have any wide receivers. Alan Lazard was not there, and I don't think he's playing again Sunday. Green Bay loses to Minnesota, the Eagles' opponent this week. Dallas, a terrible, terrible effort, and we'll talk with Sal coming up about that too. 19-3, and it wasn't that close. Tampa could have won this one by 4 touchdowns. Buccaneers look good. And Monday night, oh my God, Nathaniel. All I can say is Hackett can hack it. Certainly week 1, Nathaniel not coming up big there in the waning moments as he benches Russell Wilson to try a 64-yard field goal, and you get what you pay for. Denver loses and is upset by Seattle 17-16. Week 1. Let's take a quick look at the week 2 schedule, Xander, if we might now. Week 2 is always, I consider it it's a dangerous situation. Playoff teams from last year, I mentioned 9 of them lost in week 1. And the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, that when you go 0-2 in the National Football League, you don't make the playoffs. Not since 2018 has an 0-2 team even made the playoffs. None of the teams who went 0-2 last year made it. So it's not a good idea to start the season 0-2 because the deck gets really stacked against you, even with a 7th playoff team. So some teams that went 0-1 after losing last week, teams like the Raiders, the teams like Cincinnati should be okay, but New England is a better example. Don't want to get off to that 0-2 start, but they're looking right at it. So the Jets go to Cleveland. I'm shocked Cleveland 1-0. They're going to go 2-0. Jacoby Brissett. The Commanders at Detroit, another anonymous ball. I think every game Washington plays this year is going to be an anonymous ball. Sorry about that. Early season NFC South Crucible game. Tampa Bay goes to New Orleans. This is a big game, obviously, for both teams. It'd be a big win for Tampa to go into New Orleans. They have trouble in New Orleans a lot. I think this is going to be a good game. I expect the Saints D to play a lot better this week than they played last week. Carolina goes to New York to face the Giants. I'm a little surprised the Giants are only a 2-point number here. They asked Sean Green about this. I think bettors are Vegas is begging you to take the Giants. I like what I saw out of the Giants last week. New England goes to Pittsburgh. And New England, boy, a tough scheduling there at Miami in September heat. Now they got to go to Pittsburgh. New England is a favorite in this game. I guess that's 3 points for Mitchell Trubisky there, but tough situation for the Patriots. Steelers 1-0. Colts go to the Jags, big deal, AFC South. Miami goes to Baltimore. You got a couple of 1-0 teams here. I think this is a big game in the AFC, and a game which I suspect will matter come week 17 in the wild card standings. So that's a good game in the AFC there. Later games, Atlanta goes to the Rams. The Rams better win that game. Seattle is at San Francisco here. Big number here. San Francisco, double-digit favorite. Everybody expects them to bounce back. The Bengals go to Dallas. Bengals, this could be a big get-right game for them. Houston goes to Denver. I expect this to be a get-right game for the Broncos. I don't think Hackett could blow this one. I like Houston, though. They play hard. Arizona, I think, is a fraud. Sorry. I think they're a fraud. They go to Vegas. I expect Vegas to bounce back from 0-1. And Sunday night, the 1-0 Bears, the undefeated Bears, go to Green Bay. And again, a chance for Green Bay to get it right, which I certainly think they will. An exact replica of last year. The Packers got thumped by New Orleans in week 1 and will get back and bash Detroit. I think the same thing will happen here. So that is a quick look at last week and this week here in pro football. When we get back, I'm going to welcome in my old buddy Sal Paolantonio from ESPN. Sal's going to join me. We're going to have an extended little talk about the NFC East, Eagles, Vikings, Patriots, and Steelers. Stay with us on This Week in Pro Football.
It was late at night. I was browsing KennedyAuto.com when there was a knock at my door.
Hey, baby, what you doing?
Buying a car from John Kennedy Ford.
Online?
I let her in on the secret. KennedyAuto.com makes car buying easy. That got her attention.
Can I go for a ride?
Let me get my coat. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com. Are you looking for a family-friendly fitness center in the heart of Bucks County? Spring Mill Athletic Club has programs and activities to offer the whole family for every age and season. Group classes, personal training, dance academy, summer camp, and more can be found at this non-intimidating environment. Come tour Spring Mill Athletic Club today and get a free 1-week trial membership. Visit us at springmillathletic.com for more information.
Johnny Apple's Restaurant and Bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's Restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Bank is a true community bank with offices located throughout eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Being a First Bank customer comes with access to personal bankers, ones who know you and your business almost as well as you do. Joe Calabro is a regional president of First Bank and has been a leader and a lender in the southeastern Pennsylvania market for over 30 years. Call their Westchester office, 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC.
Welcome back to This Week in Pro Football. Here discussing the National Football League, and there's no better man to discuss it with than my next guest, and that is the 19-year host of the NFL Matchup Show and 30 years as a senior analyst for ESPN. That would be the great Sal Paolantonio. How you doing, Sal?
Pat, it's only fitting that the two of us would be back together in your inaugural show because we spent so many years together on This Week in Pro Football, and I'm just honored to be on the show with you.
It's great to have you back. Great to have you back. 19 years on the NFL Matchup Show. That's a pretty impressive record. You are the Matt Dillon of ESPN now with 19 years. I think that's how long Gunsmoke was on CBS.
You know, and it's a great show. It's a show that the players and the coaches watch. And we have Greg Cosell, of course, the founding father of the show at NFL Films, and our quarterback guru. And this year we have a new member of the cast. Darius Butler played 9 years in the NFL as a defensive back with the Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots, and you're going to like his breakdown of film, Pat. And our show is on every Saturday on ESPN2, every Saturday morning, and then every Sunday morning on ESPN. And we're all over social media. We're on YouTube, and the experience has grown with the platforms that ESPN is involved with, and to be associated with this show is amazing, and to be associated with your show is amazing too.
I appreciate that very much. Yeah, Matchup Show is a great show. I heartily recommend it to everybody watching this show to get on there. It's not, as I said last week, it's not 5-6 guys yelling at each other and yucking it up. It's serious football talk, and that's what
except when I'm involved, then it's not so serious. My job is to keep it light.
That's all right. Well, listen, let's get started here, Sal. I have the usual overdose of stuff I want to speak with you about. But let me start with the home team here. The Eagles coming off a win over Detroit. Well, that's not unexpected. So I don't think you get many kudos for that. But tell me what you think going into this game and what your thoughts are about this Minnesota team. You go from Zimmer to O'Connell, a different design in the way the Vikings play offense.
Well, let me just say one thing before I start about the Vikings, and that is, Pat, it's really hard to win on the road in the NFL. It's really hard to win on the road week one in the NFL against a team that's been rejuvenated like the Detroit Lions. And with that defense that blitzed so much last week, the Eagles were, under duress a lot offensively, and you really have to give a lot of credit to Jalen Hurts. 333 yards of total offense is a lot for a quarterback. He carried the team offensively when the defense came up short. And against this Vikings team, Kevin O'Connell, they're already penciling him in, right, as the coach of the year in the NFL after 1 week.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting what his game plan is after watching 1 week of football. Throw it to Justin Jefferson. That's it.
Yeah, that was certainly last week's plan. You're right.
And until they start double teaming that young man, he's going to continue to dominate. And, Jonathan Gannon, for all the things he's got to do this week, fix the tackling, fix the urgency, whatever scheme they're getting this week, they better account for Justin Jefferson on every single down, and he will kill them.
Certainly, Sal, the Packers didn't. I was amazed at how wide open he was at certain points. And Jefferson was effusive in his praise during the preseason of the offense that O'Connell was installing as the league continues to see this Sean McVay wave crest across it. And especially coming from a Mike Zimmer offense, much more plodding and much more deliberate. The Vikings going to be a much tougher out for the Eagles defense than they saw last week in Detroit.
Oh, they certainly are. And, the Rams' way of doing things, and you know it as well as anybody, a guy who's watched the Rams and watched McVay's offense, they want to spread it out, and they want to pass first. And then when you're softened up, they'll run the football. Right. The difference between the Rams and the Vikings is the Vikings actually have a big back who they can use as the alternative dose, and that is Dalvin Cook. So you got to go back to the Vikings. It's really interesting, Pat. The Vikings were the only team in the NFC last year that scored over 400 points but did not make the playoffs. So the offense was okay last year.
Right.
But they brought in Kevin O'Connell, and he brought in Mike Pettin as assistant head coach from the Packers, who got let go by the Packers 2 years ago.
Right.
And he's helping out Ed Donatel with that 3-4 defense. And they are in attack mode. They're healthy defensively, and they got after Aaron Rodgers. They played matchup zone, and then they just got after Aaron Rodgers, and it really worked.
It certainly did last week. Of course, you don't know how much Green Bay was really devoid of wide receivers, and it really showed. It showed in the first play of the game. But Philadelphia now comes in here, Sal, 1-0. A lot of expectations in Philadelphia this year. I didn't get to talk to you about it last week. Are the expectations, in your opinion, justified for the Eagles, or is it fair to say that this is a measuring stick game for them against a team that they could see come January?
Yeah, well, they have to correct some things defensively, and Jonathan Gannon said that. You can talk about scheme, you can talk about tactics, you can talk about personnel, you can talk about formations, whatever you want. But the bottom line is the Lions averaged 19 points a game last year, and they scored 35. And they got better, but they didn't get that much better, Pat.
Right.
So whatever they do this week, it's going to be a lot tougher because, Kirk Cousins has mobility, and they have variation on their offense, and they have Justin Jefferson, who's a terrific player, and so is Adam Thielen. So, I think this is a real tough out for a home opener on Monday Night Football. I do. I
think so, too. So I think you're right about that. So Eagle fans better be ready. It's not going to be a walk for Philadelphia come Monday night. But you, Sal, are in the booth for the third year. Actually doing analysis for NFL games. And the game you're at this week is New England traveling to Pittsburgh, right?
It is. I'm with Chris Carlin. And I got to tell you, Pat, in studying film and being involved with the matchup show, now I get to use a lot of that stuff during the week. in analyzing the game, and there's really no bigger thrill than calling a game. It's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to it. And you mentioned the AFC East, and you mentioned going 0-2.
Right.
I mean, Pat, is there such a thing as a must-win game in Week 2 for the Patriots?
Yeah.
Because Pat, they lost last week 20-7. Look bad doing it.
Right.
If they don't beat the Steelers, then they have to play Baltimore. No picnic.
Nope.
And then they got to go to Green Bay. I mean, Pat,
Yeah.
it's certainly plausible losing to Pittsburgh. They are looking at 0-4, Pat.
Yeah. That's a real possibility. Sal, am surprised. Pittsburgh's a 2-point dog here at home. But anyway, so somebody's looking at New England as bouncing back here. But it's going to be a tough game for the Patriots, I think. Pittsburgh at home is, as you mentioned, how hard it is to win on the road anywhere. That is not an easy place to win football games.
It's not. And I'll give you some numbers. You want to talk about numbers? The Steelers under Mike Tomlin are 44-24-2 against the spread as underdogs. 44-24-2 against the spread as dogs. Since Tomlin's first season, 2007, the Steelers are the only team, Pat, over 500 as an underdog.
How about that? That's a great one, Sal. But I just want to tell you 2 words in terms of your work in the booth, and that is Ray Scott. If you could just remember.
But I'm not doing play-by-play.
That's right. I know that. So you have to tell Chris that. Ray Scott.
No, Chris is a wonderful professional and very funny and very interesting and really knows the game. If I could emulate anybody, boy, that would be tough. As an analyst who was of few words, they're tough to come by, right, Pat?
I know, that's true. But I know you do a great job. Let's get around the NFC East, Sal, in the few minutes I got left with you. I thought a really inspiring win for the Giants last week, a team that hasn't won their opener, I think, since Ali Sherman was coach. And wins last week.
Now you're dating yourself, Pat.
I know. That's not hard to do. All you got to do is look at me. Everybody's dating me. But the Giants win in Tennessee with a gutsy call by Dable at the end of the game. Have you changed your mind about the Giants at all? Or is it a one-off, or is there a possibility the Giants could be a 500 team this year?
Well, I was a little bullish on the Giants because of Wink Martindale, because their defensive coordinator coming over from Baltimore was going to add an extra, firepower to what they do defensively. But I was really, really impressed with their offensive line play and their scheme that Brian Daboll put into place.
Yeah.
But Daniel Jones almost gave the game away, and they needed a missed field goal in order to win the game, Pat. I know. So
that is true.
But I do, this week against Carolina, the thing is, which quarterback will take care of the football will win that game. But here's the thing, so that Carolina is going to load up the box.
Right.
They're going to put 8-9 guys in the box. They're not going to let Barkley just run free at MetLife Stadium, get that crowd into it.
Right.
They're going to say, all right, Daniel Jones, you go beat us.
Beat us. Right. That's right. And the odds of that happening aren't good. But Carolina, as we talked about a few minutes ago, they're an NFC team staring already at 0-1. And this is a game both teams, I'm sure, go into it thinking they're going to win. Sal, the other team I want to talk to you about is the Dallas Cowboys. Now, obviously, they've been a talk of the whole NFL since a disastrous rollout on Sunday Night Football, even before Dak Prescott got hurt. Give me your thoughts about the Cowboys, not just going into – now they got to host Cincinnati, one of the teams coming off a loss that doesn't want to go 0-2. But just for the next month or so, can the Cowboys circle the wagons?
No, I don't think so. I think Dallas is done, Pat. I really do. They didn't look good when Dak Prescott was in there.
Right.
Going back to blitz numbers, I got them out. I printed them out. So I'm looking at the Tampa Bay Bucks and Todd Bowles, who we know loves to blitz. He blitzed 30% of the time, 32% of the time, and they were all over that Dallas offensive line. And I expect the Bengals, who, in my opinion, have a very good defense, just go after the Dallas offense from the get-go. I mean, the Bengals do not want to start 0-2.
No.
And boy, oh boy, the Cowboys at 0-2, then the wheels will completely fall. I don't see how the Cowboys can win the division now. I really don't.
No, and even for Dallas, you mentioned about how New England is facing a tough run. If you look at the Cowboys' schedule coming out of the gate now, they've already lost to Tampa Bay. They got Cincinnati. They have a Monday nighter with the Giants. In a couple of weeks, they get the Rams and the Eagles.
Whoa.
Could go south for the Cowboys very quickly.
Yes.
So one other game I want you to just to comment on is the NFC South game that I said in my open was I think another big early season tilt, and that's Tampa Bay going to New Orleans. New Orleans escapes because they played a team that knows and is comfortable with losing. They escaped from Atlanta with a win. Tampa Bay, I thought Sal looked very workmanlike in that win over Dallas. What do you think happens down south?
Well, it doesn't look like Tom Brady can move very well. So, it's blitz, blitz, blitz right up the middle. And don't let him get the ball out of his hands quickly. So you have to play man-to-man at the line of scrimmage. Don't allow a free release and just get after him, because the ball's going to come out in under 3 seconds.
Right.
And New Orleans has had so much success against Brady. So I expect I expect New Orleans to win this game. I do.
I think that's interesting. I think the same thing, even though usually when I look at games, I look at what's the point spread between the two quarterbacks. And obviously Tampa has the big edge here. But I think the rest of everything else goes to the Saints. I think it's going to be a tough spot for Tampa to win this.
Well, I do. But, the thing is, Todd Bowles and that defense right now, all he wants to do is attack, because he's got his secondary fixed,
right.
And they're healthy. And so he feels a sense of security that he didn't have last year. And so he'll come after Jameis Winston big time in this game for sure, 100%. I think this is absolutely one of the more interesting games because both of these quarterbacks will be under duress.
Yeah. All right, Sal, well, that flew by. Would you believe that segment is over? It just flew by. I very much appreciate you joining me. I look forward to having you on next week, and as many times as I could drag you into this set throughout the season. I certainly wish you all the luck with that burgeoning analyst career. I think that's great, and I know you're doing a hell of a job with that. And we'll see you Monday night, right at the link.
Yes, we will. And Pat, good luck with the show. I'm honored to be on with you again. I miss working with you. It's great to be on with you again. And thanks for promoting the matchup show. And I know you're a big fan, and we love the promotion.
All right, Sal. I appreciate it. Thanks very much, pal. All right, great Sal Palantonio joining me here, and hopefully he'll join me many weeks throughout the season. Let me get centered here. Xander, before we go to break here, let me get my trivia question out. Nobody answered it last week. The answer to my question last week, which was name me the NFL's leading active rusher in career rushing yards. The answer was Mark Ingram of the Saints. No one got it to me. Let's get this going here. At TWIPF Pat on Twitter. I'd like to get as many follows as I can at TWIPF Pat. You could also shoot a text or a tweet to at JAKIB Sports. This week's question, pretty straightforward. All right. Since the merger, 1970, name me the team with the most playoff berths. Name me the NFL team with the most playoff berths since the merger. Now, I'll tell you right out, it's not Detroit. All right, so there. Now you're down to 31. At TWIPF Pat, at JAKIB Sports. Give me an answer. You get a fabulous This Week in Pro Football t-shirt. All right. When we get back, we're going to talk some fantasy football with my friend Tony Cutillo from SiriusXM. A lot to talk about there already in a busy NFL landscape. We'll be right back on This Week in Pro Football.
Bank is a true community bank with offices located throughout eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Being a First Bank customer comes with access to personal bankers, ones who know you and your business almost as well as you do. Joe Calabro is a regional president at First Bank and has been a leader and a lender in the southeastern Pennsylvania market for over 30 years. Call their Westchester office, 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC.
It was late at night. I was browsing KennedyAuto.com when there was a knock at my door.
Hey, baby, what you doing?
Buying a car from John Kennedy Ford.
Online?
I let her in on the secret. KennedyAuto.com makes car buying easy. That got her attention.
Can I go for a ride?
Let me get my coat. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles!
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com. Are you looking for a family-friendly fitness center in the heart of Bucks County? Spring Mill Athletic Club has programs and activities to offer the whole family for every age and season. Group classes, personal training, dance academy, summer camp, and more can be found at this non-intimidating environment. Come tour Spring Mill Athletic Club today and get a free 1-week trial membership. Visit us at springmillathletic.com for more information.
Cantor, Novak, Beaver & Pike is a full-service CPA firm with offices in PA and New Jersey, offering first-rate accounting, audit, and tax services. They focus on helping clients achieve their business and financial goals, from startup operation to long-term financial planning. For more information, call Terry Cantor or Dan Pike at 215-550-2954 or on the web at cnbpcpas.com.
Back this week in pro football. Pat Callahan joining you here on JAKIB Sports. Finish up with Sal Paolantonio, and we bring on an even more prominent NFL guest, of course, my arch nemesis to talk some fantasy football, and that would be the great Tony Cutillo from Sirius XM and Win Daily Sports, the Jigsaw himself. Tony, how you doing, pal?
I'm great, Pat. How do I follow Sal, man? I mean, you really set me up here. I'll tell you.
I'm sure you'll crash and burn. That's all right. We'll get you through it, Tony. I'm sure that you will. I'm sure you'll get it done. Let me get started here with my get off my lawn here, if you don't mind. I'm going to throw two names out at you and just give me your opinion. How the Broncos use Javonte Williams. It's so obvious to me, Tony, that this guy could be a top 5 NFL running back, in my opinion, if they would just knock it off and give him the ball. He breaks 2 tackles every time he gets the ball. And I think he could be a really, really top-notch NFL player. But they just won't do it. It's got to be a 60-40, 55-45 between him and Melvin Gordon. Is there any hope for Javonte Williams owners?
No. I like that. Listen, again, this is something I saw playing out. I mean, all you have to do is look at the history behind Nathaniel Hackett. Even when Aaron Jones in 2020 and 19 was having big years, Jamal Williams was having big years as well, right? So, I mean, you're going to see 120 to 130 carries to Gordon. You're going to see 200 to Javonte. They might actually, the only hope I would say for fantasy owners is if they use Jones, like the way they use Jones and Williams, where Jones was flanked on the outside, Williams was in the backfield. If they do that with Gordon and Williams, we'll be okay. If not, this is what you're going to see for the rest of the year.
And it's so random, Tony. In other words, it's not something that says, okay, Williams is our goal line back or anything. It's simply a matter of the draw. Like who happens to be in there when the ball gets to the 3-yard line. And I know fantasy owners, I know I do it, are like, oh, my God, please be my guy. But the odds are 50-50.
Yeah, it's always that touchdown vulture, man. Always. And I was actually surprised. If you look at it, Javonte got more catches than Melvin Gordon, where I thought it was going to be the opposite. So it really, I don't know if it was game script or what, but Javonte just looked like he was shot out of a cannon. I don't know how you don't leave that guy on the field. I have no idea.
I'm going to go off on this later in the show, but play calling. Come on, Nat. That's enough of that nonsense. Will you please? God almighty. You take a Hall of Fame quarterback, get to the sideline so I could kick this 64-yarder, which is only been in NFL history. But anyway, the other name I want to throw out at you is Austin Ekeler. I have a bad feeling this year, Tony, about Austin Ekeler. I had him 2 years ago when he tore that hamstring. He was out 8 weeks, and he came back, and he was not nearly the same player. Last year, of course, I don't have him, 20 touchdowns. This year, I don't like it. He only played half the snaps in week 1 against Vegas. Is this going to happen all year long?
I surely hope not, because I've been on record saying that I liked him over Jonathan Taylor in the preseason. I just think he's going to have that kind of year. I'm not worried. I mean, here's what doesn't worry me. The next guy in line is Sony Michel, right? It's not Joshua Kelly. It's Sony Michel. And Sony Michel, he's kind of washed. He will do what he can do. But I think for the most part, for me, Austin Ekeler is just a week 1 thing. Don't worry. We saw this last year. He'll get the best thing for Austin Ekeler right now is the Keenan Allen injury, because now you have more targets that are going to go around. He's going to become more of that pass catcher back, which is what we all want.
That's right. And it's just, I'm disappointed in Brandon Staley. I didn't think he was going to be this type of guy. I mean, Ekeler, it's the same thing as Javonte Williams. This guy is clearly a major weapon, both running and receiving the ball, and don't outfox yourself by bringing in Sony Michel. The other guy, well, a couple other names. I also want to just give me a quick opinion on Tony. Are you drinking the Saquon Kool-Aid?
Yes, 100%. Saquon was my number 1 running back this week. Okay, just so everybody knows, I didn't get on the show last week.
Is it this week? Are you saying this week he's your number 1?
Well, no, he was last week, I should say. I'm sorry. I got to give myself some credit, Pat.
I'd have to give you major kudos for that. Yeah.
So, and again, he was 6,100. He was $3,000 less than DFS at Jonathan Taylor. Pat, this guy only had 2 negative rushes all game, 194 yards and 6.1 yards or 9.1 yards per carry.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Yeah. He is driven. He's reborn, and I'm drinking all that Kool-Aid.
I think, and he said, let's face it, Tony, he's had almost 2 years off. So I mean, I don't think there's a lot of tread off that tire. And I think he's got something to prove. He's in a contract year. The other guy, Derrick Henry, give me your thoughts on that. Same game, Henry, very desultory, open for Tennessee. Should the managers be panicking on him?
I think so, man. 2 guys I came into this year panicked on were Najee Harris and Derrick Henry, both recovering from foot injuries. Both are severe issues when you talk about a running back. So you remember, Pat, we had Deuce Staley in this town who had that Liz Frank injury, was never the same. And then he goes up to Pittsburgh and does what he does. But, that's a problem for running backs. So I would be definitely concerned going forward.
All right. Time for some jigsaw plays here. By the way, Tony's presented by the great folks at Concrete Cutting Systems. I want to get that out there. Some jigsaw plays now from you for this week. I know the first one, Josh Jacobs. You're probably all over him, no doubt. But
Josh Jacobs will not be on Jigsaw's list, okay? I can tell you that. But and these are for, listen, I'm looking at DFS values, but uses this season long as well. Matt Ryan versus the Jaguars, $5,500 in DFS. Listen, Carson Wentz looked like Tom Brady last week, okay? So I'm all in on Matt Ryan. Right. Rashad White, big time player. He rises up to 4,500 behind Leonard Fournette. Got a lot of touches in that Tampa Bay offense. Look for him. And a sneaky play. Look for Jamal Williams against the Redskins, who are lit up by James Robinson. Because right now, DeAndre Swift's nursing an injury. So for 5,400, he's a good play.
Jamal Williams. All right, let me write this. You have an uncanny knack. I'm going to tell everybody watching this show. This guy has an uncanny knack when he throws out a name. Next thing you'll see this guy doing is spiking the ball. So
yeah. I would hey, listen, last week it was Duvernay and Jahan Dotson, right? So, I mean, listen, sometimes you're good, sometimes you're bad. We just, it's all in the luck, Pat. It's all it is, all in the luck.
Tony, I'm telling you, there's a reason why I don't need a comb anymore. And a lot of it has to do with fantasy football. I'm telling you, it just drives you crazy. It drives you crazy.
Well, it's very underrated. It's very stressful, man.
It's true. Well, listen, I appreciate you joining me very much, Tony. I look forward to having you on every week. Where can people find you? I know they can find you on Sirius. When and where and what else you got going?
So we just got moved to prime time on Sirius for Win Daily from 5 to 8 on Saturdays. So you'll hear a Jigsaw Hour every Saturday from 5 to 8, and Win Daily Sports all throughout the week. I'll be doing fantasy streams all day long, and then obviously I have my own show called The Final Judgment where I talk everything and bring on guests, and that's on YouTube as well. So just give me a follow, you'll see it.
All right, well, everybody give him a follow. It's at T Cutillo. What is it?
23 for MJ right there. Look, you're right in the back.
23. Yes, you're often mistaken for Michael Jordan. We appreciate that. So good for you. All right, Tony, appreciate it very much, pal. Thanks, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week. All right.
See you, man. Thanks, Pat. Have a good week.
All right. The great Tony Cutillo joining me there. Just fantasy football, and we all do it. Millions of us do it, and it just will drive you crazy. And I know it drives me crazy. I watch Red Zone on NFL Network because there's no commercials. But how can you not help it when your team in which you got a fantasy guy gets into that red zone right away? Your heartbeat starts to go up, and you're thinking, "Man, my guy better score." And who knows what happens after that? But fantasy football, a dominant topic in the NFL now, and so is the betting and the lines and the prop plays, and that's what we're going to be talking about next with the great Sean Green from Bet SGPN Sports. So stay with us on This Week in Pro Football.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com. Are you looking for a family-friendly fitness center in the heart of Bucks County? Spring Mill Athletic Club has programs and activities to offer the whole family for every age and season. Group classes, personal training, dance academy, summer camp, and more can be found at this non-intimidating environment. Come tour Spring Mill Athletic Club today and get a free 1-week trial membership. Visit us at springmillathletic.com for more information.
Johnny Apple's Restaurant and Bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's Restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
At Whistler Pearlstein LLP, we assemble the most effective team to handle all of your legal needs. There are players and pretenders, but our hustle and heart set us apart. In practice now for over 75 years, we're proud to be one of the most prominent full-service law firms in the Philadelphia region. We offer 17 different areas of practice, including business, corporate, and tax education law, real estate, zoning, and land development, municipal law, and litigation. Our top-rated attorneys and staff are laser-focused on client success. We strive to provide outstanding legal counsel with the highest level of care and consideration. Let us show you the Whistler way. Learn more at whistlerpearlstein.com or email Michael J. O'Donohue at mod@whistpearl.com. whistlerpearlstein.com or mod@whistpearl.com.
back to This Week in Pro Football. Pat Callahan joining you, and I want everybody, including Sean Green, to give me a follow at TWIPF Pat. You can also follow the network here at JAKIB Sports. Let me bring this guy in, who looks like more of a genius now than he was a week ago, and that's Sean Green from SGPN and the Sports Gambling Podcast. How you doing, Sean?
Doing great. Yeah, very fun week one. Still recovering from Vegas, but yeah, a lot of winners. And the Eagles got the win, didn't get the cover, but looking forward to the week two slate.
Are you back in Los Angeles now?
Yeah, back in the home studio here in LA.
Yeah, well, the home, it's surrounded by rabid Ram fans. I got into a Twitter battle with some Ram fans this week because I follow a lot of them because I've been a diehard Ram fan for 45 years. And I should say 55. How about that? 55 years.
Wow.
But they were actually complaining, Sean, that, hey, there was a bunch of Denver fans in the Monday night game in Seattle. And why doesn't the announcers bring up the fact that there's a lot of road fans here in Seattle? And the answer is because Denver had 5 penalties against the offensive line for a false start. That's why. And they don't have to go to a silent count in a home opener as a Super Bowl champion against a team from Buffalo that's 3,500 miles away. That's why.
Yeah, no, I mean, you nailed it there with the silent count. That is the sign, and the Chargers have had to do that as well. I mean, the Chargers, they don't talk about it as much because they're the Chargers, and no one talks about it. So Rams fans, you could have it worse. You could be Chargers fans.
Well,
but yeah.
I was talking to my lovely wife about it. I said, later on this season, the Rams play a road game at the Chargers. And that game will be fascinating because I assume nobody will be in the stands for that.
Who's going to have to use the silent count?
I don't know. But it's just, I don't know. It's just such a shame, football in Los Angeles. But so be it. Listen, Sean, what I want to start off now asking you is, I mentioned at the top of the show about some teams that 9 playoff teams lost last week, 9 playoff teams from the year before. And there are a number of pretty good teams that are staring at an 0-2, which is a death knell for making the playoffs. Do you factor that in as a prognosticator? Do you add extra incentive to those teams that are trying to avoid an 0-2 start?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 0-2 start is certainly part of it, but I would rather look at like elite quarterbacks coming off a loss. I think that trend in particular, to me, is something I definitely look at because, if you're a good quarterback, you're not gonna lose back-to-back games a ton, and depending on how bad or good you look, they factor that into the number. I mean, one I really like is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow 10-2 against the spread after a loss. So he's a guy that is, you would think is going to come back, has a good spot against the Cowboys. And the Cowboys obviously deal with their own injury issues there. But yeah, certainly, after you lose that first game, teams can get desperate, and you definitely do have to factor that in.
Yeah, I thought Joe Burrow would be somebody you would zero in on there, but there's some other teams like New England. I was talking with Sal Paolantonio earlier in the show. New England goes to Pittsburgh. I am shocked, Sean, that Pittsburgh is an underdog at home. Why would the Steelers, coming off a win and now in their home opener, be an underdog to a team in New England with a banged-up quarterback coming off a loss in week 1?
Yeah, that line didn't make sense to me either. I've been trying to wrap my head around it all week. I like the Steelers on that side. And to your point, yeah, Mac Jones was dealing with back spasms. He actually missed practice today with an illness that's unrelated. It's not COVID, but again, that's a horrible sign. I think there's still a lot of respect for the Patriots in the marketplace because of Bill Belichick as a head coach. And over the years, Bill Belichick has done well against Mike Tomlin, who's also a good head coach. But that Matt Patricia-led offense, back-to-back road games for that team. Ty Montgomery's out as well for them. And then you got a banged-up Mac Jones against that Steelers defense, who now they don't have TJ Watt, but they were still able to generate a ton of pressure. And you have Brian Flores, not a defensive coordinator, but a linebackers coach. And the Miami Dolphins were 2-0 against New England last year. So I think he's going to be able to help game plan, ways to slow down Mac Jones and the Pats offense.
All right. Before we get to the pick segment here, Sean, I just want to ask you about one other play, and that is Is Vegas begging you to take the New York Giants? I'm surprised that number is not bigger coming off the inspired effort the Giants put out last week against Tennessee.
Yeah, so my handicap on the Giants game, you're right. They did play inspired. Daniel Jones, even with the late interception, trying to give the game away. Obviously, to get the win, they were fortunate a little bit on the missed field goal there. But I think there is still some issues with, the Giants at home. Like even when they were bad these past few years, they've played better, especially against the spread on the road than they have at home. So I think that is what's kind of being factored in here, is that Daniel Jones has looked worse at home. And then you have the Giants offensive line. I still think there's a ton of questions, and the receiver position has a ton of questions as well for the Giants. I mean, Saquon Barkley really looked good for them, and I thought the defense did some nice stuff as well. But I think the offensive line, I think the fact that they didn't look that great at home, didn't look that great historically at home, I think is part of it. And then there are a couple trends that are favoring the Panthers here. But yeah, I probably would have made it a little higher.
All right, Sean. Let's get to the pick segment here. Sean Green, presented by the good folks at UGI. Let's get to the pick segment here, Sean. You were 2-1 last week. I was 1-2. I got robbed at backdoor on the Lions. A lot of Eagle fans were not happy with that. So, but you have the con since you were 2-1 last week. Tell me who you like 3 games this week.
All right, going to start off with the Seattle Seahawks getting 9 points in San Francisco. Normally I would look to fade a team coming off a big Monday night win like that, but this is a division game, and I faded the 49ers last week. I'm going to fade them again. I just didn't see anything out of Trey Lance to me that would warrant him being this big of a favorite in a division game. I mean, you look at the Bears-Packers spread, and it's pretty similar to the Seahawks 49ers spread. Yeah. And meanwhile, Trey Lance has started 4 games, and Aaron Rodgers is back-to-back MVP. Now you even factor in, it looks to be rainy conditions again come Sunday, and George Kittle is trending not to play as well. Right. So I think it's setting up decent for the Seattle team, at least to make it a game. And Geno Smith has kind of been a gambler's dream, because he's been 9-0 against the spread his last 9 games. So we'll see if that continues. But the number to me is way too big for the Seahawks team.
What else?
Another game I really like is give me the Jacksonville Jaguars getting 4 points at home against the Indianapolis Colts. Last 9 matchups between these two teams, the home team has won it. Now, again, I didn't see anything out of that Colts team on the road that really made me scared of them. Now you're seeing that Michael Pittman, he was limited earlier in the week. He's now been downgraded. He didn't practice today. So that is always a scary sign when they're limited and then they go backwards.
Oh, God.
They're not progressing the right way. It looks like DeForest Buckner could be out as well. And I always love home dogs in Florida early on in the season, because that heat and humidity, especially for a dome team like the Colts, I think is a real thing. I think they hang around at the very least. I think they're a live dog as well. So give me the Jags +4.
All right. One more.
Oh, man, this is a good slate. You know what? I'm going to go back to Cincinnati. I'm going to take Cincinnati -7. Normally, I'm not a guy who takes a big non-conference road favorite, but I think you have to here. I gave out that nugget earlier about Joe Burrow ATS after a loss. T. Higgins is back. I think this Bengals offense is chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
They outgained Pittsburgh by a few hundred yards.
They killed them.
I mean,
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, Burrow had 4 turnovers in the first half. I don't think he's going to do that again against Dallas, and Dallas is starting Cooper Rush. I mean, they put up 3 points with Dak last week, and I think this Bengals defense is pretty good. They're going to be hungry, so I like them laying the number here.
All right, and I'm actually Sean. I'm with you on 2 of the 3. I like Cincinnati. I like Seattle. The game I'm different than you on is I'm going to grab Pittsburgh +2 against New England. I just don't see it. I don't see Mac Jones. I don't think. I mean, I would take him over Mitchell Trubisky, but not by a lot. So I think despite Mitchell, I think Pittsburgh should win by a field goal here, so I'll go with the Steelers. Sean, where does everybody find the great Sean Green? Tell me what you're working on, what else is going on here, and where can people find out what you're up to?
Yeah, sportsgamblingpodcast.com or just type us into Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Can't miss us. Just Google Sports Gambling Podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be there.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate you taking the time. I got to start talking with you, and I will set time aside starting next week. Maybe there's some props that you like. We can introduce some other things like that, and it'd be fun to get some nuggets from you on that. So thanks a lot for taking the time. And I know you didn't wear the Ram jersey. You'll have the Ram jersey on next week. I appreciate that very much.
It's coming.
Okay. All right, Sean. Thanks, pal. All right. I'm always late with this guy. I don't want to do that. I want to get him on. The great Gary Myers will join us in just a minute on This Week in Pro Football.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com.
I grew up in a home, and I wanted my kids to have that. The process of buying a home seemed so daunting, but Christine and M&T believed in me. Everyone took an interest and helped me through the process. You don't get this kind of service everywhere. I closed on the house and I didn't tell the kids. They were like, oh, you got the key? You closed on the home? They were so happy. M&T Bank made this dream come true for me and my girls.
It was late at night. I was browsing KennedyAuto.com when there was a knock at my door.
Hey, baby, what you doing?
Buying a car from John Kennedy Ford.
Online?
I let her in on the secret. KennedyAuto.com makes car buying easy. That got her attention.
Can I go for a ride?
Let me get my coat. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Are you looking for a family-friendly fitness center in the heart of Bucks County? Spring Mill Athletic Club has programs and activities to offer the whole family for every age and season. Group classes, personal training, dance academy, summer camp, and more can be found at this non-intimidating environment. Come tour Spring Mill Athletic Club today and get a free 1-week trial membership. Visit us at springmillathletic.com for more information.
Johnny Apple's Restaurant and Bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's Restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
I want to be a game changer in construction. I want to be able to provide diversity in the workforce, and it starts at the top. I started Rodriguez Construction Group in 2013 with 2 employees, and we're 85 strong today. M&T has been a great partner since day one, providing us the access, the opportunity, the funding to be able to continue our growth. We can change the community in a positive way, one person at a time, one job at a time, and one family at a time. I think M&T Bank is very committed to the community, just like us.
Back to This Week in Pro Football. I'm joining you talking about Week 2 in the National Football League, and always pleased to have with me the author of Brady versus Manning and How About Them Cowboys, and long distinguished career covering the National Football League, and that is Gary Myers. How you doing, Gary?
Pat, how are you doing tonight?
All right, I'm fine. I'm sorry I held you up, Gary, but I like to finish the show strong, and it doesn't get any stronger than having Gary Myers on.
Oh, that's nice.
So, Gary, let me just start here with just give me your thoughts, Gary. Week 1, did Week 1 tell you anything about any particular team or player or any type of trend that you saw coming out of the NFL's opening week?
Well, I think it continues to show how hard it is for teams that have just come off a Super Bowl to really assert themselves early in the season. You know, for whatever reason, you know, whether it's motivation, complacency, players upset with their contracts, other teams really, you know, pinpointing them on the schedule. But you saw the Rams and the Bengals both struggle in week one. You know, Bengals with Joe Burrow throwing an uncharacteristic 4 interceptions and losing a fumble. Matt Stafford throwing 3 interceptions. So I think there should be a little bit of concern, especially with the Rams. I think the Bengals will be okay. The Rams, I think, have had a lot of changes and losing some key players. And even though the NFC West isn't necessarily as strong as it's been in some past years, I think that the Rams might struggle a little bit. The other thing that I think became clear is that Patrick Mahomes is just almost an elite to himself. No Tyreek Hill. People predicted he was going to have some problems. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Spread the ball around. He's just an incredible player.
That's certainly true. The quarterbacking in the AFC between Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Justin Herbert, there is some elite quarterbacking for the way the game is played today, Gary, being played out in the AFC. In the NFC, you got much more longer in the tooth and some rough starts certainly for Aaron Rodgers and for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, regardless of who plays with Aaron Rodgers, he just makes all the receivers better. Well, that may or may not be true, but so far, after 1 week, it's not true. He threw for under 200 yards. He has a lot of young players there, a bunch of rookies. And Devontae Adams might have been the biggest loss that any team suffered in the offseason. He and Rodgers were just, so in sync that you just wonder when Rodgers could be able to get those young receivers up to speed. As far as Dallas, I mean, they were having problems moving the ball after the first series with Dak in the game. And now you go to Cooper Rush, who is nothing more than just a journeyman. And I know he won a start last year at Minnesota, but the Vikings weren't very good last year. I think the Cowboys season is really, it's hard to say this past second week of the season, but the Cowboys season is already teetering on the brink. Even if they get back Dak within 4 weeks, as Jerry Jones is hoping for now, I mean, they could be 0-4 and 0-5 because I just think they're going to have problems even with Dak.
I agree, Gary. I think they're definitely going to lose to Cincinnati. As you mentioned, Bengals coming off a loss. They have no intention of going 0-2.
Right.
And all they got to do is not give up 6 sacks and 5 turnovers, and I think they should be just fine against the Cooper Rush. So I think Dallas is in for some tough times here. They got Philadelphia in a couple of weeks. Here in Philadelphia, that's going to be a very tough game. Then they got the Rams, and so you're right. I don't think the sun is shining very well in Big D. I wanted to ask you too, Gary, about the only, I thought, controversial coaching move last week was the Monday night game. And you think it was just nerves, or what was it that prompted Nat Hackett to basically bench his Hall of Fame quarterback and attempt a 64-yard field goal at the end of the game against Seattle?
Yeah, first of all, I apologize for the music in the background. I stepped out of an event to talk to you this week, Pat.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's not bad music, though, but it's a little too loud. I can't quite figure this out other than prior to the drive, they had it in their minds, get to the 46-yard line, and Brandon McManus was good from 64 yards. I mean, it's absurd. They had 3 timeouts, 4th and 5. Russell Wilson, they gave up 2 1s, 2 2s. Fant, the tight end,
right.
And then paid him $250 million with over $125 million guaranteed. And you're telling me that you think you got a better chance to make a 64-yard field goal than Russell Wilson rolling to his right and just flipping the ball to Gordon or Williams? I mean, I don't know. I mean, didn't he have anybody in his ear saying, Nathaniel, this is a really bad idea.
Yeah.
This is why we got Russell Wilson.
Yeah. I always wonder that, Gary, in those situations. Most NFL teams now have 20-plus coaches, and yet no one apparently would say, hey, Nat, you got 3 timeouts here. I mean, for God's sake, they could have run another play, and then even if they don't make it, they could have, they could have gone quickly on fourth down. Even if they don't make it, they got 3 timeouts. They get the ball back. All they need is a field goal. But
That's right.
I just thought it was atrocious clock management there for Denver. But I think they'll get it right. Denver this week, they got Houston coming in. Denver tough out. So,
and the other thing I'll throw in there, Pat, is his dad, Paul Hackett, was a longtime assistant coach in the NFL, a head coach in college. So Nathaniel's been around football his entire life. And obviously he didn't learn any game management while he was hanging out with the 49ers, the Cowboys, and the Pitt Panthers, and all the places that his dad was at.
Yeah. Gary, a big game in the NFC this week. New Orleans hosting Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, I thought, with a workmanlike effort, they just discouraged Dallas early and won that game without, I think, meant much in the terms of fireworks at all. At New Orleans, quite conversely, had to come back from behind because they were playing a team that knows well how to lose in Atlanta, and the Saints pulled it off. Now they play this week. I like the Saints here. I think to get more right at home, their home opener, by blitzing the hell out of Tom Brady. What are your thoughts here?
Well, the Bucs and Brady have had problems with the Saints in the first 2 years that Brady's been in Tampa. They've lost 3 out of the 4 regular season games. They did beat him in the playoffs, which obviously was the biggest game that the two teams have played against each other since Brady is there. So I'm certain that Tom is looking to kind of establish himself against the Saints without giving them the confidence that they think they have his number. You're right. It was just kind of a workmanlike performance against Dallas. I got the feeling that any time the Bucs really would have needed to move the ball and get it into the end zone, if the game was close, they could have done it. But Dallas, couldn't score after their first possession. I think that the Bucs are kind of, we can say this about any team, Pat, but the Bucs are really a work in progress. Tom's got to establish some chemistry with Julio Jones, Chris Godwin, is just coming back from his ACL. I know he played last week. I'm not sure what his status is for Sunday, but you just figure it's going to take some time for him to work himself back into where he was before he tore his ACL. I think when all is said and done, the Bucs make it to the final 2 of the NFC, and then what happens after that, we'll wait and see.
Garrett, I feel the same way. There are 3. I opened even this segment, and I opened the show by talking about teams that are staring at an 0-2 crucible and how devastating that is for making the playoffs. And no team has done it since 2018. They won 0-2. There's 3 teams I circled that I think have a real chance to go 0-2. One like Cincinnati, which I think is definitely going to win. Even San Francisco, I think, is going to beat Seattle, but I think it's going to be a lot closer. Carolina, New England, Tennessee. Who stumbles again this week, in your opinion, and finds themselves in an 0-2 hole?
Well, I think Carolina's going to have a hard time with the Giants, just because the Giants had that emotional victory in Tennessee last week, and now they have their home opener. I think the Giants will be able to carry that momentum into week 2, and I don't think that Carolina is very good anyway. Throw the other 2 teams at me, Pat.
Tennessee goes to Buffalo off that loss to the Giants. Going to Buffalo's home opener, not a good place to be either.
Yeah, I think Buffalo's going to steamroll a lot of opponents. And from what I saw of Tennessee last week, they really miss A.J. Brown. I don't think that Tannehill has the confidence in close games to get the job done. And going up to Buffalo needing a victory is really a difficult situation. I think they go to 0-2 as well. Did you say Green Bay was the other one?
I'm not worried about Green Bay. New England.
New England, yeah. New England going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
New England, I don't really, I think Belichick is if he's not the greatest coach of all time, then he's right behind Lombardi. And why he went into the season without an offensive coordinator and put the offense in the hands of Matt Patricia, who's a defensive coach, and Joe Judge was a special teams coach before he was a failed head coach of the New York Giants, who had a terrible offense in the 2 years that he was there. I don't get what Bill was doing there. He's just smarter than that. I can't figure out why he didn't find a young offensive coordinator to replace Josh McDaniels and to work with Mac Jones. And they were just a mess the first week in Miami.
I agree. I think it's going to be tough for them to get out of Pittsburgh with a win. So you got some notable teams, Gary, going to be up. Listen, Gary Myers, I appreciate you stepping out from that event. Gary, you've been a prolific author. Is there anything else you're working on you want to talk about here, or anything else you want to promo in terms of the National Football League that you might be working on?
Yeah, I'm working on a book called Once a Giant, the stories of victory, tragedy, and life after football. It's about the 86 Giants Super Bowl team, Pat. Yeah. And it's all about life after football and how the years have treated them. And I think it really addresses so many of the important issues that are facing players who are in their 50s and 60s now, and today's players who in time will be in their 50s and 60s, what they're facing, physically, emotionally, and financially. So the book is going to come out in September of 23.
That's great. I hope, Gary, you and I are still conversing on the air. I'd love to talk to you about that book when it comes out, because it's a untapped subject in the NFL. Is what happens when these guys in their 30s retire and they're already physically beat up, and then the money runs out. You're right. It's a big subject. So good for you for taking that on. And Gary, thanks very much for stepping out. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. All right.
And I'll be in a quieter background next week, I promise.
All right, Gary. Thanks a lot, pal. The great Gary Myers joining us there. And that's it for this week's episode of This Week in Pro Football. Week 2, always a big week. You start to separate a little bit the wheat from the chaff. There's some teams, as I said, that are really on the precipice here. It'll be very interesting to see how the Eagles respond on Monday night. It's a big game against Minnesota. That's a tough team. It's going to be a tough out. And the Eagles can stamp themselves as a serious player in the NFC with a win. So we look forward to talking to you about that next week and the entire National Football League. Don't forget, give me a follow, please, at TWIPF Pat. Give the station and the network a follow at JAKIB Sports. Answer my trivia question. Name me the NFL team since the merger with the most playoff berths. It's pretty easy. You win a This Week in Pro Football shirt. Send that off to me or to JAKIB Sports. And I look forward to seeing you all next week on This Week in Pro Football.